It's a feeling I think most of us know, that sense of just being pulled in all directions, juggling everything until you're basically running on empty.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
And if you're trying to actually learn to, figure out what really matters, it just feels like treading water. So much noise.
Exactly. And that's where someone like Brent Zeeman, his ideas really cut through. He has this great line: to be valuable is far nobler than to be merely available.
That's powerful. And that's what we're diving into today, right? His take on how to handle this world that just constantly wants our attention.
Right. Our mission here for you listening is to really unpack that. What does it actually mean to focus on creating value instead of just being around all the time?
And how can shifting that focus maybe lead to a more, I don't know, impactful life, both work-wise and personally?
Okay, so where does Zeman start? He talks about this almost societal craving for constant access.
Yeah, this addiction to access, he calls it. And what's really interesting is how it creates this false idea,
Hmm.
this illusion.
What kind of illusion?
Well, that being instantly reachable, answering every email right away, always having your door open, that somehow that makes you valuable. We just assume it does.
It's like we've mixed up being responsive with actually being worthwhile.
Exactly. And Zeman uses a classic analogy, diamonds, right?
Right. They're valuable because they're scarce, not because they're everywhere.
Or think about like a Rolls-Royce factory. They don't churn them out endlessly. Part of the value, the appeal, is that they're not easy to get.
So he's saying maybe the same applies to us. If we're always on, always available.
Are we maybe unintentionally signaling that our time, our energy isn't that scarce? Isn't that valuable? It's something to think about.
It really is. And it makes you consider the actual cost of being available all the time. It's not just hours lost.
No, it's the mental drain, the emotional cost. You end up exhausted,
Yeah.
right? But not necessarily from doing work that, moves the needle, just from keeping up.
Just from the sheer volume of it all.
And Zeman points out something important here that can start to eat away at your sense of self-worth.
How so?
Well, if you blur the line between just being visible and actually providing real value, you can end up feeling unappreciated, maybe even a bit disrespected.
Like you're running hard but getting nowhere.
Exactly, spending all this energy just to kind of stay afloat.
Which leads right into his point about time. How it's this incredibly valuable, finite thing. He compares it to money.
Yeah, time is currency, which is such a great way to frame it because, let's be honest, most of us are pretty careful with our money.
Right. You wouldn't just...
Zeman asks, like, point blank, would you just hand out $100 bills to strangers on the street?
Of course not. You understand that $100 bill has value.
Precisely. So then the follow-up question really lands. Then why squander your energy, wisdom, and attention on those who have not earned it?
Oof, yeah. That makes you stop and think about where that energy, that non-renewable resource, is actually going.
And if we're just giving it away freely, the risk, Zeman says, is that people start to take it for granted.
It becomes expected.
Yeah. And then worse, maybe we start feeling guilty for wanting to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Like we start doubting ourselves for saying no.
Which brings us neatly to boundaries, which, let's face it, can feel awkward sometimes, like you're being rude.
But Zeman reframes it completely. He argues setting boundaries isn't rude at all.
Yeah.
It's actually about self-respect. It's fundamental.
How does he explain that?
Well, think about it. Every time you say yes, just because you feel obligated, or maybe you're afraid of disappointing someone,
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially saying no to your own stuff,
Yeah.
your own priorities, the things that genuinely call to you.
He has that phrase, right, positioning rather than people-pleasing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That nails it.
Ex-
It's about making conscious choices about where you invest your limited time and energy instead of just reacting to everything.
It's a proactive stance.
And here's the key insight from Zeman. When you consciously decide to be less available to things or people that drain you or don't value you,
Yeah.
you actually increase your value to the people and projects that do matter.
Interesting. So less availability to the wrong things makes you more valuable to the right ones.
That connects directly to this idea of focused intention. Zeman really pushes back against the idea that success comes from having this huge, sprawling network.
It's not about quantity.
Not primarily, no. It's about strategically placing your presence, being deliberate about who you serve, who you engage with. Quality over quantity.
He mentions singular focus, I think.
Yes, that focus energy has way more impact than spreading yourself thin across tons of superficial connections. It relates to his concept of positioning.
Okay, what does he mean by positioning exactly?
It's about building a reputation, an impact
Yeah.
that exists even when you're not in the room. People know your value, they talk about your contributions because of the focused work you do. It's different from just being there.
So availability is passive, positioning is active, intentional,
You got it. It's about the lasting impression, the consistent value you deliver.
and he keeps coming back to time as wealth. Manage it like you manage money.
Because it's even more precious, right? You could maybe earn back money, but you absolutely cannot earn back lost time. It's gone.
So stop treating it like loose change.
Exactly. Zeman says we often treat time casually, like spare change, but it has the potential to be this incredible high-yield investment if we're smart about it.
Which leads us to busting the myth of busyness. We tend to wear busy like a badge of honor.
Oh, definitely. But Zeman draws a sharp line between being busy and being productive. They are not the same thing at all.
And the most successful people.
They're often masters of saying no. They understand that true progress requires focus. Constant distraction, which often comes from saying yes too much, just kills meaningful work.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory. How do you start making this shift? Zeman suggests something practical, right?
Yes, an availability audit. Simple, but powerful.
What does that involve?
Taking a really honest look at your calendar, your commitments. Asking yourself, what here truly aligns with my priorities? What's actually moving me forward?
And then being ruthless?
Pretty much. Cutting out the non-essential stuff, the distractions that are just draining you without giving much back.
It's about prioritizing activities that elevate you, not just occupy you.
Exactly. And Zeman believes that when you start doing this, how others perceive you starts to shift too. You go from being maybe just another option.
To someone who operates with real intention, purpose.
And that intention impacts your perceived value. It's almost counterintuitive, but Zeman keeps stressing. Constant availability can actually lower your perceived worth.
Because you become commonplace,
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah. Like his eclipse analogy.
Ah, right. An eclipse grabs everyone's attention because it's rare.
If they happen daily, we wouldn't even look up. The rarity enhances the value, commands attention.
So being too available makes your contributions less noticeable.
Zeman argues yes. He thinks many talented people get overlooked precisely because they've made themselves too accessible. Their brilliance gets diluted.
Okay, but there's a balance, surely. You still need to be reliable, dependable.
Absolutely. And Zeman acknowledges that. Loyalty, dependability, these are crucial.
So how do you manage that without being taken for granted?
It's nuanced. The key is avoiding the creation of an expectation of constant, immediate presence. When people just assume you'll always drop everything.
They stop appreciating it. It can even breed entitlement, maybe resentment down the line.
Right. On both sides, potentially.
So the alternative Zeman suggests is selective presence.
Exactly. Being more intentional, more selective about when and where you show up. Not being cold, but being thoughtful. This preserves your influence, he argues, and earns more genuine respect.
He even suggests letting people miss you sometimes.
Yeah, in a way. Allowing for that absence can actually make your presence more valued when you're there. It becomes a privilege, not just a given.
He also warns against this discount mentality about ourselves.
This is a big one on self-worth. Don't shrink yourself. Don't lower your standards just to make others comfortable or to keep the peace. Because, as Zeman puts it, people fundamentally don't value what seems cheap or easy to get.
So it really boils down to owning your value. It's not about your job title or your follower count.
No, it's self-determined. And when you stop offering those unconscious discounts on your time, your energy, your skills, things start to shift. Better opportunities, clearer communication often follow.
This all points towards what he calls high-value living. What does that look like?
It's about letting go of needing everyone's approval all the time. It's about refusing to tolerate disrespect for your time and energy.
And believing the world needs your best self.
Yes, your full, unapologetic, high-value self, as he says. You don't owe anyone an explanation for guarding your time. And remember, the energy you put out is often what you get back.
And the foundational skill for all of this.
Mastering the art of saying no.
Which can be so hard.
It really can. But Zeman frames it as essential. Every yes to something that's not aligned with your core purpose is inherently a no to something that is.
That's a stark way to put it.
It is, but it highlights the stakes. Saying yes constantly is a recipe for overcommitment, overwhelm, and eventually burnout.
So saying no is about protecting your energy.
Exactly, and doing it gracefully without excessive apologies or justifications. Just self-guarding your resources. Think about it. Truly effective people are selective. They focus their energy where it counts, on things aligned with their goals.
So, wrapping this up, Zeman's core idea is really about shifting from people-pleasing to positioning.
Right. Prioritizing positioning over pleasing, because trying to be everything to everyone usually means you end up undervalued by the people who actually matter most.
And respect doesn't come from just being constantly available.
No. He says it comes from your posture, your principles, your presence, the value you bring when you are present. Operating with intention means your time carries more weight.
It's about depth over breadth, clarity over chaos.
Yeah, choosing value creation over just availability. The best you can offer isn't being always on call, it's offering your focused impact where it truly makes a difference.
So, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on after this. Reflecting on everything we've talked about. What would it look like for you, say, this year, to become intentionally less available to the many things pulling at you?
And significantly more valuable to the few people, the few projects that truly align with what's most important to you.
Maybe take some time to really look at your patterns of availability. How could shifting that focus bring more depth, more clarity, more real value into your life?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope these insights from Brent Zeman give you a useful framework for thinking about your own time and energy.